So the second part of 7.2 is how to graph an ellipse that's not in standard form. In order to get an ellipse in standard form, this is what we're going to need to do. We're going to need to get the variables all on one side, and we're going to need to group the x's together and the y's together. So what that means is any term that's a constant needs to get moved over to the other side. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to subtract 24. So subtract 24 from the left, subtract 24 from the right. The 24s are going to get canceled. So on my right-hand side, I'm going to have negative 24. Now, on the left-hand side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rearrange my x's together, and I'm going to rearrange my y's together. Now, because they're already on the same side, I don't need to change any signs. So my 4x squared, I'm going to put first. That negative 24x, I'm going to put that right there. And notice how I didn't change the sign because I'm not moving anything on the other side of the equal sign. The y squareds, I'm going to group with the 4y. So we're going to have plus 4y here. So all I did was I moved the 24 over, and the left-hand side, all I did was I rearranged. Now this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky. What I'm going to next need to do is I'm going to need to complete the square. So the 4x squared and the negative 24x, I'm going to need to complete the square with those terms. The y squared and the 4y, I'm going to need to complete the square. So I'm going to need to do two sets of completing the square here. Now, before I complete the square with the x squared, before I find that special number, I need to factor out this 4. So dealing with my x's first. My x's are going to become 4 because I'm going to factor out a 4. When I factor out a 4, I'm going to be left with x squared minus 6x. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a special number just for my x's. So plus, make room for that special number. Special number for my x's. I'm going to use negative 6 as my b value. Negative 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So my special number for my x's is 9. So there's my x's. Now what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to complete the square again with now my y values. So luckily I don't have anything in front of my y squared, so I could just jump straight into the special number for my y values. So my y values is going to be y squared plus 4y plus the special number. The special number for my y, 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky because notice I have two special numbers here I just found. One special number is related with the x, one special number is related with the y. What that means is on the right-hand side, that negative 24, I need to add both special numbers. And keep in mind, if you factor out a term, you need to multiply that term with the special number. So that means that negative 24, I'm going to have to add 9 times 4. So I'm going to add 36, and I'm also going to need to add this 4. So I'm adding two special numbers here, one from the x, one from the y. Left hand side, I could factor. I'm going to have 4 times the quantity x minus 3 squared. With my y's, I could factor that out to be y plus 2 quantity squared. Now the right hand side, what I could do with the right hand side is I could do negative 24 plus 36 plus 4. 36 plus 4 gives me 40. 40 minus 24, 16. And the last thing we have to do before we start graphing is, for all ellipses, you always need a 1 on the right hand side. So what I have to do with the 16 is I have to turn the 16 into a 1. The way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to divide by 16. So divide by 16 on the right, but every term here I have to divide by 16. Now from there, anything that we could reduce, we're going to have to reduce. 4 over 16, we could reduce that. We'll still have the x minus 3 quantity squared. 16 divided by 4, that reduces down to a 4. There's nothing to reduce this 16 down with, so he stays where he's at. And the right hand side, 16 divided by 16 is 1. Now what we did is, we took this quadratic form of the ellipse. We had to do two sets of completing the squares. We did that. We got a 1 on the right hand side. Now it's in standard form. Now we can start graphing. So our center is going to be h comma k, so 3 comma negative 2. Our a value is the square root of the bigger denominator, in this case is 4. Our b value is the square root of the smaller denominator, which is going to be 2. And our c value, which is going to give us our focus, is going to be the square root of 4 squared minus 2 squared. which gives me 16 minus 4,
Square root of 12.
which gives me square root of 12.
2.2.
And again, nothing fancy. Square root of 12 is just going to be 3.5. Now we can start graphing. So let's put our center. Our center is 3, negative 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. There's our center. Now, because the bigger denominator is underneath y, that means we're going to have a vertical major axis or vertical ellipse. So here is my major axis. My minor axis is going to go horizontally. So minor axis. And we can start counting to get our ellipse. So our A value is 4. So let's go along the major axis 4 spots. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one vertex. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my second vertex. Let's use the B value to get my covertices. So 2 spots to the left gives you one covertex. 2 spots to the right gives you another covertex. Here is my ellipse. And let's put our focus down. Focus is 3.5 units away from the center on the major axis. 1, 2, 3.5. So there's my focus, very close to the vertex. There's my other focus, very close to the vertex. All right, so this example, we took quadratic form ellipse, completed the square twice, got 2 special numbers, got it in standard form, and we can graph.